Please.
We are live on
Woo.
YouTube. This is the Complete Man podcast, episode number 4. And we're live in 3, 2. Welcome back to the Complete Man podcast with your host, Purdeep Sangha. Purdeep, how are you doing today?
Hey, what's up, man? I'm doing pretty awesome. How are you doing?
I'm good. We're recording. We're running into internet issues. And it's so funny. Minor inconvenience in an otherwise awesome life. And I'm like, these dang internet issues.
I know. Imagine what life is going to be like in 10 years when everything is internet,
Oh,
everything is electronic, and it's like people won't be able to function if something happens.
I know. I think even worse and more dystopian, Elon Musk gets his microchip in all of us, and we're all
Uh,
hooked up to the internet. We wake up and we're like, the internet is out. My heart can't regulate itself today.
yeah, the pros and cons of technology we've talked about in previous episodes. It's like I think it's cool. I was thinking about this the other day, Nathan, because it'd be cool to maybe have a chip in you from the perspective of, hey, it can tell you that your blood pressure is too high or your cholesterol is way too high and you're at risk of a heart attack. That kind of stuff is cool, but I don't need to know every single thing about myself. That's what we talk about when we being self-centered and self-consumed, because I see a lot of people actually these days with a lot of technology. Like I wear a Fitbit, but I'm not consumed by it. But so many people have all these technologies and they're so consumed by it day in and day out. It's like, okay, what's my heart rate right now? Well, how was my sleep patterns? And they're almost become, how do I say it? It's causing them more anxiety than I think benefit.
Mhm.
But that's a
Yeah.
different topic. We'll save that for another episode here.
So then what do we have as the topic for this week's episode?
Well, let's talk about scaling your business. I think that's a big one. If majority of the people that we work with, someone asked me this question: why do people typically come to you? What's the first thing that they look for? And 80% of our clients are looking to scale their business in some way, shape, or form. And so that's essentially what we're going to talk about today, because it's not easy. It's actually, if you take a look at the stats, it's like less than 4% of businesses who want to actually scale past, I believe it's $1 million, actually scale past $1 million. It's like a significantly low rate of businesses that are actually able to scale. And let's talk about why. Because if you understand the why, you can actually scale, because you're going to be able to overcome the roadblocks that are actually stopping you.
So this is something that I struggle with. It's also something that a lot of my clients have struggled with as well. And I'm interested in hearing what you have to say, because right now I feel like I've hit a glass ceiling as far as what I can earn, because I work pretty much exclusively as a one-man show. And I have 3 clients, potentially 4 clients. And if I take on this 4th client, I just feel like I'm not going to have any time for myself. And then how do I scale past that point? So this is something that I'm struggling with, and I'm sure if I'm struggling with it and the guys that you work with are struggling with it, a bunch of the guys in our audience are probably struggling with it as well.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about this. This is going to be a jam-packed episode. So if you're listening out there, take notes, because you're going to get a lot of value here in terms of how to scale your business. So first of all, you need to know whether you want to scale your business or not, and are you dedicated and committed to doing it, and why. Right? Because some people like to have a certain type of business because of lifestyle, right? Because it fits their lifestyle. For example, I love the advisory side of my business, because I get to work when I want. I get to pick the clients I want to work with. I get super high margins, close to 90% margins. And so I don't have to worry with all these other things. So, for example, my brother and I, we're always looking at expanding our portfolio, and we're always taking a look, potentially, do we get into my brother's into physical products, right? Physical products. And I always shy away from physical products because there's a lot more to do. You have to have a physical location, right? Then you got inventory, you got all these other complexities that not only challenge your margin, but Now you have all these different layers of risk as well. So know why you want to scale, because scaling may require you to have a different type of lifestyle. That's A. So that's typically why a lot of people can't scale, because they don't want to give up their lifestyle right now, right? Because like you talked about, one man show, but what if you to scale, you would have to work 100 hours a week? Like, what would that be like for your lifestyle? You can scale, but maybe it's not the lifestyle you want. So that's something important to take a look at. The second element is, for you to be able to scale, you have to have the right business model. So, what is the business model that you have right now? And what is a scalable business model? So, I'll give an example. Working with two bright ladies who are consultants, and they do a certain type of consulting, and they won't be able to scale to a certain degree, to a level, unless they actually digitize some of their services, meaning that instead of actually providing on-site training for individuals, they have to create some kind of digital training that is evergreen, that people can access. Maybe they charge a less amount, but actually present it to more people. So what they are doing now is they're changing their business model. Rather than going face-to-face training, they're doing it, hey, it's pre-recorded, it's all set on an LMS, learning management system, and people can buy it ad hoc at their will and be able to consume it based on their schedule and their timing, right? So they had to change or add a different element to their business model. So the big reason why a lot of people can't scale is because that business model that they're using right now isn't the same business model that they need to be able to scale. That's the first thing. Secondly, you have to remember these four things in business. These are the fundamental principles. A, you have to be profitable. B, you have to think about scalability, because if you're not scaling, your business will eventually die or be bought out, or your competition is going to be coming in, because scaling is important. That doesn't mean you have to scale exponentially, but you have to continue to grow, right? The third element is you have to build a valuable business, meaning that it has value. And the fourth is that it has to be transferable. And we'll talk about the value and the transferability, because it comes into play with your scalability. But first thing is, you have to have a profitable business. And a lot of people don't have a profitable business at the end of the day. They are generating revenue, but their margins, their net margins, aren't necessarily there where they need them to be. Right? So before you think about growing, you need to say, how do we maximize the value or the margins at this particular time? And that typically includes, I'm not a big fan of cutting um, costs that you don't need to, but you also have to take a look at where are you spending that it's just not efficient. It's just not effective. And overall, it's your efficiency, right? How much are you producing? How much is it costing you to produce that? And where can you actually streamline things to actually be able to get a higher margin and have more efficiency? And efficiency could be more margins, or actually put more clients through, or customers through your pipeline. And that requires you to take a look at things like your standard operating procedures, right? Do you have standard operating procedures? Do you have technology in place to be able to put more people through, or reduce your costs, or have it standardized so you have less defects or less issues, right? So technology is an important way to do this. I see this very common, even for businesses that are like $50-60 million a year. A lot of them don't have standard operating procedures, or they may have them, but they're written down somewhere. They're not in a digital format where it's easily accessible. People have this knowledge all in their heads. Not only is that not efficient, but that's a big risk as well. And so people can also, what also hinders people from scaling is the risk that's involved. You lose one key person in your operation, and none of that knowledge is written down on paper. Well, guess what? The next person you bring in to train has to learn it from scratch now, right? There's no onboarding system, there's no training platform. Now, what it could have taken you 6 months to get someone on board and fully developed, it's taking you 18 months. Right. And that slows people down, because one of the biggest challenges for people that have a business is that it require people which a lot of businesses do, the people are the limiting factor because people are quitting, especially right now, the great resignation. People are quitting and have quit, and it's hard to find right talent. So find out how efficient your business is and how you can actually make it more efficient. If you don't have the expertise, I always recommend hiring a consultant or advisor to help you. There's someone else out there that can help you make your business more efficient.
I was going to say a lot of this stuff for the average business owner, they're like, this just isn't in my wheelhouse. I don't know how to
Mhm.
create standard operating procedures. I don't know how to digitize this stuff. I don't know how to figure out what is a valuable expense and what is a draining expense. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, for the average business owner out there, they might be throwing up their hands and just be like, somebody please come help me with this.
Yeah, and I recommend that because it's always important to get someone else's help because they can accelerate your results a lot faster. Yes, you can do this on your own, right? You can learn these things, but again, it's the time versus the money that you're actually going to put out, right? And that's the whole benefit of having advisors, having consultants, right? That's the business that we're in, Nathan, you and I. We can accelerate someone's business a lot faster with by helping them out rather than them trying to figure it out themselves. It's it's just a smart thing to do, right? Get the right people on your team. If you can't hire someone, you don't have the funds, right? Look for some kind of mentorship because it's a lot faster. So, making your business operationally streamlined is important because then you can do the next step, which is actually having a better marketing and sales strategy, right? And that's probably the biggest limiting factor for a lot of businesses. I would say 80% of businesses is they don't have a big enough pipeline. They don't have the right marketing system in place, the right sales systems in place to actually have the pipeline to drive more sales, and they're constantly in that conflict of they're not taking on more sales because they don't have the systems, and because they don't have the systems they're not focusing on more marketing and sales, right? It's a chicken and the egg approach that typically most entrepreneurs are stuck in. But if you build the right systems, then you can actually focus on bringing in more people and marketing, and having the right sales approach. And that's where guys like you, Nathan, come on board to help them with their marketing and actually help them build a bigger pipeline so you can actually funnel more people through and actually make more sales, right? So sales and being able to service your clients are the two most important things for scalability, but you have to be able to do the first thing, which is making your business profitable, right? So profit first, scalability second. We've talked about that. Scalability comes from having the right efficiencies and having a strong marketing and sales strategy. It's simply those two things. If you are, let's just say, in an industry that is continuing to grow and also at a maturity phase in your business where it's continuing to grow, if your business is fairly mature, for example, you have a business that's been around for decades, you might have to take a different strategy. You might actually have to be innovative and create new products or services, right? You might have to tap into a different type of a market, which is, if you can remind me after my spiel here, Nathan, to talk about diversifying your business, meaning getting into a different business stream completely to make more money as an entrepreneur and not just focus on your existing business. So let's talk about the third element, which is value. You always have to be building a business that is valuable, meaning, does someone else think my business is valuable? Does anybody else aside from you as a business owner actually like your business and actually have some value in it, or think it has value? And that value actually comes from having standard operating procedures, having a CRM system, right? Clients in place, maybe recurring revenue, contracts, having the proper insurance. You know how many deals actually fall short because someone looking to buy a business can't get insurance because the insurance company says there's too much risk involved because the previous owner didn't do the proper risk assessments. So making sure that your business is valuable is important. And this is the biggest analogy that I use, the simplest analogy actually. Let's just imagine that you've lived in this home for 20 years, right? And you're like, okay, I want to downsize or I want to move on. And you're like, I think I'm ready to sell. And then you are talking to a realtor and your realtor says, yeah, your house sucks, you can't get anything for it, you might as well just take your stuff and move. You're like, what are you talking about? This is my house. I've lived in it for 20 years. I think it's valuable, but nobody else does. The market doesn't think your business is valuable, right? You have to build a business that's valuable. That's why for our business, what we do is we do business valuations, like legal chartered business valuations for other companies. So we can tell you what your business is actually worth. And a lot of times, the number one reason why people don't sell their business, guess why?
because
Anyone want to take a guess?
it's not as valuable as I think it is.
Yeah. And business owners get stuck because they want a price of X, the buyer is willing to pay Y, and the business owner sometimes is even willing to let the deal fall through and get nothing at the end of the day because they can't put their ego aside, because they haven't done the right things in determining what the value is of their business along the way and increasing that value. Right? So know what your business is worth. Do a value assessment. You don't have to hire a chartered business valuator like we have on our team, for example. You can get someone to give you a consulting or an advisory report. It might cost a couple of grand just to give you an idea of what your business is worth and what the value is. So what you're trying to do is build your value from A to 2A or 3A or whatever it is. You should be constantly taking a look. Just like real estate, you want your value to increase. You don't want your value to decrease, right? And you don't want your value to flatline. You constantly want it to grow because inflation, right? Because look at the inflation right now. If your business is stagnant and the value is stagnant, well, you're actually losing out because inflation is actually going up. You're having to pay more employees more every year. Your products and services, your supplies cost more. So you want to make sure that your rate of value is actually growing higher than inflation. And that leads to the fourth element, which is transferability, because you have to be able to transfer the value of your business to somebody else. So just like a home, if a realtor says, yeah, we think we can get X amount for it, but no one's buying it, that's not transferable.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be transferable, meaning someone actually wants to come in and buy it. And it's always important to build your business so you can sell it at some particular point in time. Because imagine spending your entire life building a business or just like a home and then just leaving it abandoned because no one wants to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then you could do the cool thing. And here's really, I think this topic is more than just scalability. Nathan, I think it's about creating wealth. That's really what we're talking about here, because people want to scale their business because they want more wealth. Ultimately, no one wants to scale a business to make less money or have less freedom or less wealth in life. If you are in that boat, you're doing things wrong. Unfortunately, there's a lot of guys that do that. In all honesty, there are guys that work harder, make more revenue, but actually make less net profit and have less freedom at the end of the day. That's not what you want to do. You want to take the complete opposite approach.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get to having a business that is profitable, scalable, valuable, and transferable, guess what you can do now? You can go to the bank and say, here's what my business is worth. Can you provide me some funds or use it as collateral for whatever it is? And now that's where you get to have some fun and maybe do something different in your business, maybe start a completely different business altogether. And that comes back to what I asked you to remind me of, and I'm reminding myself right now, is you don't have to just be in one business. You can build a portfolio of businesses, right? And that's, for example, something that I'd like to do. For example, real estate and advisory, right? That's the one thing that I love, because real estate gives me a different level of flexibility. And I can do things there that I can't do in the advisory and vice versa. So now building multiple businesses, when you get to the point of being able to build a business that's transferable, that's when you can start building a separate business altogether.
So it feels like all of this kind of boils down to, instead of building a business that you have to constantly be working for, build a business that's working for you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's the end game. That's the one liner to take out of this is your business should be working for you. You shouldn't be working for your business. And that's the old saying, right? You should be working on your business rather than in your business. And it truly is, right? If you, this is the difference. A lot of people are working to build or to make money. That's what most entrepreneurs do. Or I should say business owners, not entrepreneurs. I think there's a distinct difference there because entrepreneurs are always thinking about the end game, thinking about selling their business so they can create an investment rather than have a business to work in. Whereas business owners build businesses that they work in. And so that is the core difference between the two. But if you are building a business that is transferable, you're constantly thinking, how can I pull myself out? How can I become an investor in this business rather than be the business owner? And that is how you need to think. That's why when you, rather than going to back to my original point, most people are trying to make money. A real investor and entrepreneur is trying to create value in their business. And what is the difference? It's a difference between you doing something or taking on clients because you want to see net income at the end of the day versus you implementing systems or processes or technology to increase the value of your business so you can take on more clients, right? Or you can improve your margin. So that is the difference. In simple terms, it is like having a rental property, which a lot of people do. This is what a lot of people do is they have rental properties that they are just looking for cash flow every month, right? And then there's the investor that has rental properties and knows that if they make certain tweaks to the property or enhancements to the property, not only can they get more rent, but at the end of the day, if they want to go sell this property or leverage it to go back to the bank, and when they come and do an appraisal, guess what? That value of that property is increased by 100 grand. Now they can get 75 grand from the bank in addition to be able to invest in another property. Whereas had they not done the improvements, yeah, they would have still gotten the rent, but not as much rent. Plus, they wouldn't have been able to get that extra loan from that bank or sell it for that extra amount. That is the difference between being an investor slash entrepreneur compared to a business owner.
Okay. I'm going to cut you off there because I don't want to risk a whole new topic and a whole new podcast episode. Maybe we'll tackle that next week. All of this stuff that we've been talking about today, I know is stuff that you actually help business owners with. And if one of the guys out there listening is, or one of the girls out there listening is thinking to themselves, I want to talk to Purdeep and see if he can help me do this with my business, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, just simply email us at team@purdeepsangha.com. That's the easiest way.
All right. Awesome. And if people want to check out more episodes of the podcast,
check out completemanpodcast.com or youtubeformen.com.
All right, man. Until next time, we will catch you later.
Can't wait.